From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The HP AI PC breaks language barriers instantly by translating up to 44 languages in real time, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AIPC.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to another exciting episode of Negotiate Anything. Thanks for joining us today. With over 10 million downloads and listeners from more than 180 different countries, it's dedicated listeners just like you who have made Negotiate Anything the #1 negotiation podcast in the world. I'm your host, Kwame Christian. I'm a business lawyer, mediator, author, and the proud CEO of the American Negotiation Institute. Now, before we get into today's insightful conversation, I have a golden opportunity for those of you who recognize the power of negotiation in your professional lives. Have you ever found yourself wishing that you could navigate those high-stakes conversations with more confidence? Or perhaps you're looking to empower your team with the art of persuasion and conflict resolution. At the American Negotiation Institute, we've crafted specialized keynotes and workshops tailored for those very needs. We've transformed the negotiation skills of professionals worldwide, and we're eager to do the same for you. We believe the best things in life are on the other side of difficult conversations, and our goal is to help you improve your lives and the lives of those around you, one difficult conversation at a time. Don't let another challenging conversation leave you second guessing. Click the link in the description to discover how we can help you find confidence in conflict, negotiate better deals, and have stronger relationships. Because in the world of business, every conversation counts. And now, without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Meggie, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for hosting me. It's a delight to speak with you as always, Kwame.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you as always. So for the listeners who may have forgotten, and for our new listeners, can you remind them about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Meggie Palmer, and I'm the founder of a company called Pep Talk Her, and we're on a mission to close the gender pay gap. So we want you to get paid more and get promoted much faster.
I love it. And has anything interesting or new happened this year for you?
I was like, has anything happened? I've had a baby. So I'm getting better at negotiating with a newborn who can't really communicate. So that's been interesting.
Congratulations. Yes. So that's really exciting. And listeners, this is incredible. Hugo must be the best behaved baby in the world because he's in the room and you can't hear him, which is incredible.
So he's meant to be napping. Long may it continue.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, when we have you on, Meggie, we always talk about careers. We talk about salary and everything like that. And that's really important. And people might say, well, why are we having Meggie back on to talk about the same thing? And the reality is things have changed. And so I want people to be able to have the most updated information possible. But before we get into those tips, there's something really cool that I want you to tell the listeners about that you have going on in your company.
Yeah, so a lot's changed. So we're going to chat about how you can negotiate successfully in the current economic climate with inflation. So we're going to get to that. But I wanted to give a shout out to anyone who's listening who really wants to be earning more money by the end of the year or who's really looking to get promoted this year, right? So we run twice a year a free career challenge and it's kicking off in about a week. So we would love to have you join us along with the American Negotiation Institute team as well, peptalkher.com/ANI. And you can join the free 5-day training. I'm running the live training myself to help support you. So we would love to see as many of your listeners there.
This is great. And yes, listeners, live training for the price of a podcast. Okay. So make sure you check that out. We'll put a link in the description so you can get access to that. So Meggie, appreciate it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, the Know Your Worth challenge. Because it's funny, it's so interesting. I talk to professionals all day. And one of the things that I hear a lot, and I know you hear this as well with the work that you do, is people forget how awesome they are and how valuable they are. And that's really what the Know Your Worth challenge is all about, is reminding people you have value, you are contributing to your team, and you want to make sure that you're compensated for that.
Absolutely. And, when we think about negotiation skills, and getting the value that you deserve, it starts with knowing your own value, right? We have to understand the value that we bring to the table, and we're not going to be able to be effective unless we can articulate that in a way that is convincing to other people, but first convincing to ourselves as well. So this is really important.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the time we think that the employer has all the power when it comes to negotiation. But actually, for great staff, as you and I know, running our own businesses, we want to retain top people. We want them to be happy. We want them to jump out of bed and be stoked to work hard for us. So the flip side of that is we actually want to compensate people well so that they feel that they're fairly paid, so that they feel excited and they feel that they're sort of being valued where they need to in market. So don't forget that you actually do have power in these conversations as well.
Absolutely. This is great. Well, yes, listeners, check out that link in the description, sign up. And again, it's a free webinar workshop that Meggie's going to host. And we're going to give you a little bit of a sample of some of the brilliance of Meggie Palmer here in this episode. And so, yes, let's talk about what's changed since last time. I think it's been about a year since you've been on the pod to talk about salary negotiation and just career advancement in general. What are the main things that we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, and I want everyone listening today to just kind of reflect, like, what's happened to you and your career over the past 12 months, and what's happened to your pay packet? And has that pay been going up? Because if it hasn't, I've got some bad news. If you haven't had a raise in the last 12 months, then you've been sliding backwards, right? Because it's no secret that inflation is bananas right now, more than 8% for those of us who are based in the United States. And that's a problem because basically that's slicing and dicing your salary and taking the value away from you, right? So you need to be getting at least 8 or 9% increase in your salary this year just to keep up with the fact that the cost of living is rising at an incredibly fast pace right now, right? So, inflation, it sucks because when you go to the grocery store, as we've all noticed, it's getting expensive, but it's also, really slicing away at the value of your salary as well. So I want to make sure that everyone is really cognizant of that and conscious of the fact that you've got to be asking for a raise every year, particularly right now because of inflation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for the people who are employers listening too, this is really important because you're a business owner, I'm a business owner, we have employees, and we are running and gunning all the time. We're very busy all the time. And it just is a reminder, again, for me, it's funny being on this side of the table now, right? It's a reminder for me that a lot of times as an employer, it's easy for me to just forget about these types of things. And so really, we have to take responsibility for our own careers if we are the employee to raise awareness and have these conversations, because a lot of times management, it just might slip their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, I think in any career, it's very easy to blame people, isn't it, at work? It's like, oh, my boss really sucks. Oh, my colleague really sucks. HR sucks, or whatever the case may be, But actually, at some point, you've got to really take ownership of your career yourself. If you're not being paid fairly, if you feel like you're undervalued right now, which I hear from thousands of women in the Pep Talker community every year, if that's how you feel, I want to first just commiserate with you because it really sucks. If you don't love your work, it's really tough. But at the same time, you can't expect your boss to fix everything for you, right? Your boss might have 10 direct reports, 5 direct reports, 50 direct reports. They've got a lot going on, right? They've got their own life as well. So you actually have to make sure that you're steering your career and taking control of it yourself. And that means raising how much you're paid every year. That means having that tough conversation, right? It means negotiating for your salary. It means talking to potentially other employers about maybe changing roles if you don't feel like the money that you're being paid is in line with your experience and is in line with the market right now, especially given the inflation figures that we're seeing.
Definitely. And like you said, it kind of ties into what we were talking about before when we were talking about the challenge that's in the description of the episode, right? Because we have to know what our worth is, but we also have to take responsibility for raising this awareness, having these types of conversations. And again, the actual strategy behind these conversations isn't usually the toughest part. It's usually overcoming that barrier. And so it might be fear. It might be a lack of self-worth, issues with your personal value. But then it also might be just the fact that you say, this is not my fault. This is their fault. They're to blame. Like you said, it's easy to blame, but a lot of times, especially if we're just blaming and commiserating with our buddies, we're not changing anything. And so we have to shift from focusing on fault to focusing on responsibility. All right, the situation isn't great. I want to be paid more. I deserve to be paid more. Great. So we need to take responsibility and then have those conversations.
Absolutely. And, I think the other thing is one of the things that we do at Pep Talk Her is we're very focused on closing the gender pay gap. And I want to just acknowledge that the gender pay gap does exist and that's not our fault either, right? So we know that there's, depending on what country our listeners are in today, it's 15 to 20% gender pay gap for women. And we know that gap is significantly worse for women of color, right? So I just want to acknowledge that. And that pay gap is not our fault, right? So I really hope that we can get to a point, and I hope that we're on this podcast in a couple of years' time and it's all gone and it's no longer an issue. Although I doubt that's the case, because the United Nations reckons we're looking at about 100 years before we close that gap. But in the meantime, before we can close that gap, before we wait for, big business and government to catch up with the policies that need to be put in place, in the meantime, there are things that we can do. And to your point, there are levels of personal responsibility that we can take to move from fault and from blame towards change, and the change that you want to see in your career and the life that you want to lead, right? I want you all to be paid more. I want you to get promoted to the level where you should be, because when you get there, you'll be learning more and you'll be growing and you'll just be so much happier and you'll be contributing more to the business and the team as well.
100%. And Maggie, let's talk about this too. And this might be a little bit off of the typical directionality of a podcast episode focused on salary negotiation, because I think, especially when you think about the main goal of your company, the reason why it exists, which is to get rid of the gender pay gap, that's really important. Right. And then, so for the individuals listening to this episode, yes, negotiate, get what you deserve. And we're going to talk about specifically how to negotiate in these times. We're updating those skill sets for these types of conversations. But at the same time, now that we have awareness of what those pay gap is in the workplace, as you rise through the ranks of your company, you can keep an eye on that. Now you can be an advocate, you can be an ally, and you can take these exact same negotiation skills that you're using to advocate for yourself and advocate on behalf of others, on behalf of the group, to create the structural change within organizations that we need to see in order to eliminate the wage gap too.
It's so important, the point that you make, right? Because everyone listening today has the capacity to help create that change, right? To create a more equitable workplace, to create a world in which the gender pay gap no longer exists, right? I was at an event recently with Julia Gillard, the former Australian Prime Minister, and she said something which I think was really interesting. She said, with every wave of change comes the inevitable backwash as well. And I think that's interesting, right? Like, we are making progress and we know that we're sort of inching closer to a more equitable world. We're seeing more women in leadership. We're seeing more people of color moving into more senior roles in the businesses, as they absolutely should be. And yet with that, there's a price that a lot of people pay for that progress, right? And it means that sometimes you're going to have to walk away from companies where you don't feel like you're being paid or treated fairly or equitably, or where you see behavior that doesn't align with your values. And if we say nothing and if we do nothing when this happens, it's just going to perpetuate it, right? And it's going to continue to be unfair and unjust for others. And so I do want to sort of give a bit of a call to arms, I suppose, for everyone listening. Like, take on the role of stepping into a place of courage and calling things out in the workplace when you see things that are happening that are unfair and that are inequitable. And when you have the capacity to hire, and when you're influencing payroll, ask for there to be pay transparency. Ask for there to be, a level setting of what are people paid in different roles within the business. Like, we have the capacity to enforce and to sort of, encourage our companies and our employers to create that change quicker than maybe they would if we just sat back and just allowed the status quo to continue.
Yes, I appreciate this little aside because it wasn't little at all. It was very, very important. And I think if we can just get one person to say, you know what, there is something I can do. You know what, maybe it is
Totally.
worth negotiating into that next level because that next level of authority gives me more influence over these types of challenges too. So this is really important. And so let's get into the actual X's and O's of this. Let's talk about the strategy. When we're thinking about the major challenges that people are going to have when it comes to these salary discussions today, what are the things that people need to watch out for? Hello, my friends. Before we get back to today's episode, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered how to elevate your team's negotiation game and how you can help the folks on your team have better, difficult conversations? At the American Negotiation Institute, we offer transformative keynotes and workshops tailored to empower professionals with top-tier negotiation and conflict resolution skills. Whether it's a keynote for your next event or hands-on training for your team, we've got you covered. Don't just negotiate. Master the art with the American Negotiation Institute. Click the link in the description to find out more. Elevate, negotiate, and succeed.
Introducing the HP AI PC, your powerful AI assistant. Easily search through personal files, gain valuable insights, and make smarter, more informed business decisions. Unlock the future of work today with the HP AI PC, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AIPC.
So here's the thing that I hear a lot when people are saying, oh, I'm really nervous about negotiating, like my salary. I don't want to be seen as high maintenance, all those kinds of things. The thing is that if you prepare for these conversations, you can actually map out in advance what's going to happen, right? Because in any salary negotiation, there's really only three options, right? They can say yes, they can say no, or they can say maybe. Right? So there's really only the three options and you can actually prepare in advance. And I always say to people, there's three ingredients for a successful negotiation. And the most important one, even though it's not very sexy, it's not very exciting, the most important ingredient for a successful negotiation is preparation. It's preparing in advance. And if you have a salary negotiation conversation this afternoon and you prepare at lunchtime, like if you're asking for $500 extra a year, okay, that's probably enough time. But if you're looking to get a $5,000 increase, an $8,000 increase, a $20,000 increase or more, which we see a lot within the pep talker community, if you're looking for a significant jump, then you'd better put in significant preparation, right? Because you've got to make sure that it's not just, oh, I want more money. It's putting the meat on the bone. Why do you want more money? What have you contributed? How have you added to the team culture? How have you added to the team's bottom line? How have you made the business more profitable this year? And, I know we've spoken about this before, Kwame, but one of the reasons why we built the Pep Talker app was for this exact reason, because I can't tell you what I had for breakfast last week. And it's not just because I have a newborn at home. It's because our brains can only retain so much information, right? And so you probably, and let me know, listeners, let Kwame and I know on social media, send us a DM or tag us and let us know. Can you remember what you did at work 3 months ago? Or 6 months ago, or 9 months ago? Can you remember the exact project that you did that was a huge success? Because if you can't, you actually need to be tracking those successes more regularly, right? And that's what the Pep Talker app helps you do, is it helps you remember in the moment, in the week, the successes that you've had. So we actually say that you should be reflecting at least once a week on what you've contributed. Did you organize an internship program? Did you add an extra sale to the bottom line of the business? Did you organize the holiday party? Whatever it is, write it down now, because chances are you're like me and you won't be able to remember in 12 months' time when you're having your review. So if you reflect once a week, even if you miss a couple of weeks, if you reflect once a week, ostensibly you could be walking into your next review conversation with 40 to 50 things that you've done that you're really proud of. And then it's very easy to say to your boss, hey, listen, I've done A, B, C and X, Y, Z, and I've contributed in this percentage or in this revenue line or whatever. These are the reasons why I'd really love to discuss my compensation moving forward. Because you've got the reasons to sort of back up your case and your argument for that increase in salary.
Oh, this is so good. And I know, Meggie, you're like, I know I do this all the time. That's why I help. I help thousands of women around the world. I know it's good, but this is great. And everybody, these are the kind of friends you need to have. The friends who just casually drop that they have an app, in the middle of a conversation, like it's nothing. But yes, Meggie has an app and it's brilliant. And actually, Meggie, since we've been talking, I actually started to compile my own lists of wins because I think it's beneficial.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really beneficial for a couple of reasons. Like you said, it's beneficial because you can say, oh, why am I awesome? Let me tell them. This is the reason why I deserve a raise, right?
Yes.
Very clearly.
Love that.
And so it clearly helps with the external negotiation. But I think the thing that people often overlook is that it helps with the internal negotiation as well. Because when I'm down, when I'm feeling a little bit sad or insecure or whatever, because that happens to everybody, sometimes you forget how awesome you are. Yeah. And so anytime anybody says something nice to me, I put it in a note document that says compliments and brag box. And I will just read through that until I feel better. And so this is something that you use to convince yourself as well as the other party of why you deserve what you are asking for.
And I love that you do that. And thank you for sharing that because, it is, and we all have bad days, right? We all have bad days in life, at work, maybe you have a fight with your partner or your best friend or whatever. And you're like, oh, am I even any good? What am I even doing? Can I even do this job? The client said no, or, my boss had to reprimand me. Oh my gosh. And you spiral, right? Like we spiral as humans. And so what we know is though, the way that the brain works, it's quite cheeky, right? And so there's these neurons that fire in our brain. And so if we are in a regular cycle of spiraling, thinking that we're no good or really taking constructive criticism to heart, we can spiral in a negative way, right? And that really erodes our self-confidence, right? And how we're perceived in a confidence sense by others. And that's one of the things that we talk about in the Know Your Worth Challenge as well. What we actually want to do is strengthen the neural pathways when you're not spiraling. And we want to strengthen those pathways, to your point, Kwame, when you feel good about yourself, when you're receiving a compliment, when you've excelled at work, when you've received compliments and praise from your boss and clients and colleagues. Those are the parts of the brain that we want to strengthen. And I always harp on about this, but it's kind of like if I wanted massive biceps, I'd have to go to the gym and, flex those muscles every day. And nothing's going to happen the first week. I'm going to be a bit sore, but nothing's going to happen. The first month, I might be a bit toned, and then maybe after a year, maybe then I have biceps a bit more like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? But it takes time. You've got to strengthen that muscle. And it's the same thing with our mindset around how confident we feel in and of ourselves and how confident we feel about our ability to contribute positively to the team and to our job. Because I'm sure everyone listening has got someone at work that they know who's very confident and who holds themselves with a lot of swagger, right? And who really backs themselves. And like the reality is that when you are confident and when you believe in yourself and when you know you're adding value, the way that you are perceived in a negotiation goes up. And it's a lot harder to say no to someone who's got the data from the app, who's got the confidence and who's really, constructively engaging in a conversation about how you can find a mutual agreement on salary going forward versus negotiating with someone who's like, oh yeah, please, can I have a raise? Like even the tone of my voice, then it's not very, endearing. So all of these things, when you put them together, they really do contribute to the success or failure of a negotiation.
I love it. This is so powerful. And that is why I love having you on the show all the time. So I appreciate it, Meggie. And before you go, please remind the listeners about you, your company in general, and again, about the awesome opportunity you have coming up.
Yeah, well, I love this podcast. I'm a bit of a nerd and I'm obsessed. I'm an obsessive listener. So shout out to anyone else listening who's in the same boat. Please say hi to Kwame and I on LinkedIn. We're on the social medias as well. I'm at Pep Talk Her. My name's Meggie Palmer. Please find me on LinkedIn and say hi as well. But yeah, Pep Talk Her is my company. You can check out the app on the Apple App Stores and the Android App Stores, Pep Talk Her, Her. And this is super exciting. And this is for all of the podcast listeners today. We've got a free 5-day Know Your Worth challenge, which I'm personally live coaching you in how to know your worth so that you walk into your negotiations this year with confidence and with the skills and the scripts that you need and the playbooks to get a successful outcome. I want you to get a 10K raise by the end of the year, and I'm going to show you how to do that during the 5 days. It's totally free, no strings attached, etc. So you can check it out, peptalkher.com/ANI. So I'm excited to see you in there. We've had a lot of ANI listeners and members of the community come through the program, and they've gotten things like 15% pay raises, 20% pay raises, 17 grand extra. We've actually had three, would you believe it, three $100,000 plus pay increases, which is pretty wild. But we're very proud of that. But typically people see at least a 5K raise, and then anything up from there kind of spans that spectrum. So I'm excited to help support your really crush the career for the rest of the year.
Love it. Meggie, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Congratulations! You've just joined an elite club. By listening to a full episode, you're now officially on the Negotiate Anything team. So welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episodes of the show. The best things in life lie on the other side of difficult conversations. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep getting better. Your relationships will improve, your career will soar, and you'll have the confidence you need to get the most out of these crucial conversations. Again, thank you for joining the team. We're excited to have you, and I will see you in the next episode. I'll catch you later.